Nuffield Trust. It suggests that instead of discouraging children that cannot be afforded, the policy simply plunged millions further into poverty. Well, joining me to discuss this now is Professor Jonathan Portes, Professor of Economics and Public Policy at King's College London. Thank you very much for joining us here on the briefing this morning. I suppose there was a noble intention to this policy in the first place. No one wants to see children in poverty. But the stick approach, as opposed to the carrot, may well have been counterproductive.
That's absolutely right. There was a lot of press comment, to some extent encouraged by the government at the time, saying people were having kids just to take advantage of what was perceived to be an excessively generous benefit system. But that doesn't really seem to be the case. Fertility has actually fallen for people affected by the cap, but it's also fallen for higher income families, and it's also fallen for people who haven't had children, who've only had one child. So we've seen this fertility fall across the board. It doesn't seem to have been driven by the benefit cap itself. So what does seem to be doing is, overall, British parents are having fewer kids, but it's not about the benefit system. It's about wider factors.
It is interesting. I'm not sure many families go through the tax code system or go through various benefits and work out exactly how much cash they'll get before doing the act of procreation. I'm not sure that that's the incentive involved. But I wonder, have we been too focused, have policymakers been too focused on discouraging children when really the whole Western world seems to face a very big demographic crisis across all income scales? People aren't having enough children. Should that be an issue that is rising up the salience ladder in our politics?
I absolutely agree that it should. I mean, we had this, we had a mini baby boom in the 2000s for a variety of reasons, but we've now rejoined the same trend as most of the Western world, or most advanced economies, seeing these continuing falls in fertility. So fertility in the UK, it fell particularly during COVID, which is not surprising, recovered a bit last year, but it's still only 1.6 kids per person, which obviously is well below the replacement rate for the population. And it won't turn itself around on its own. You can see that by looking at South Korea, where the average woman currently has less than one child. It won't automatically reverse itself. It does require us to create a society where young people feel that they are supported to have children, and their children have that they and their children have a good future ahead of them.
And just to be absolutely clear, if we have a replacement rate below one, if we're having each couple having fewer than two children on average, what we have is an inverse demographic period. More old people than young people, more people who need pension payments, NHS care and everything, and a smaller number of people who are funding all of those benefits. There's a really concerning societal, problem that we are really heading towards. What policy changes do we need to see to avoid that?
I think we need to have we need to make this a country where young couples feel that they can have kids, and that's partly about how affordable housing. It's partly about decent and widely available childcare. It's partly about having a good childcare and school system. It's partly just about having a society where people feel that they are happy having kids and bringing up kids. There's a whole range of factors. Some of them are economic, some of them are social, some of them are cultural.
An incredibly complicated picture. I'm afraid we're running to the end of the conversation now, but let's hope that policymakers can be really focusing on this issue. As I say, a very concerning situation.
Yeah. I mean, we really do not want to be like South Korea.
With fewer people funding it. Well, for now, Professor Jonathan Portes, thanks very much for joining us today.